minutes. Thank you. Councilmember Goodman.
I'm going to move to grant the application for an interim use permit to allow the overnight shelter for an additional year, subject to the conditions that have been listed. I have a lot to say about this, and I'm going to try to be very brief. I represent a ward with 30,000 constituents downtown and at least 6 shelters amongst them. It is a residential neighborhood, and there are shelters. In fact, I'll point out the newest shelter that just opened, Higher Ground, is pretty much directly across the street from condos valued at $500,000 or more, and it's directly across the street from a business that my husband owns. So I pretty much believe that high-end housing, medium-income housing, and businesses can coexist with shelters. This is a question of people in our community. They are going to be here anyway. And if they have the ability to get a decent night's sleep and a meal and participate in society by finding a job or getting the resources to find a job, they're not going to be the people leaving the needles and urinating in the same community. We have a problem in this city, and we're going to have a problem at the federal level as the federal resources dwindle, the state resources dwindle, and we are going to have hundreds of people camping out outside, not just in PV Plaza, but under bridges at 394 and in Uptown underneath the bridge and along the Midtown Greenway. We have to do more, not less. I would argue that even if there were huge problems here, we should continue to have this shelter open because there'd be bigger problems if we did not have shelter for people. As it pertains to this issue of having shelters in residential areas, in churches, I would argue religious organizations are the best able to be dealing with these kinds of problems. In my ward, the community of downtown churches is pretty much solely responsible for any service organization working with homeless people, from St. Mark's to the Basilica. These are organizations who are charitable and well-equipped to be dealing with these issues, and I quite frankly take offense that we should put homeless people in industrial areas. If we want to marginalize those at the bottom rung of our society, we would toss them into an industrial area and say, you're not worthy of living in a residential area amongst the rest of us. We should be integrating very affordable and workforce housing, housing for people who are formerly homeless, into all neighborhoods in the city, and I personally, as well as other members of this committee, have spent a career working on trying to do that. The way to bring people up and out is to integrate them with the rest of us who have succeeded so they can be around others of positive influence. So from my point of view, we should do 10 times more of these. And they are welcome in my ward, and they have been. First Covenant Church is also the other temporary shelter that's been open. It's in the Elliott Park neighborhood. There are 6,000 people that will live within 6 blocks of this shelter. Have there been issues? Yes, there have been issues. We live in a city. But all of us do better when all boats rise. And we really need to take a stand that people who are homeless or formerly homeless deserve to live in residential neighborhoods. And these pictures, this makes me sick. This is a mat on the floor. This is not housing. No one wants to live in this situation. They want to live in housing. We have a commitment at the county and the state level to end homelessness. We don't have the resources we would like to have to be able to solve this problem. This is one teeny tiny step in the continuum, and I would urge every member of this panel to vote for this and work with these religious organizations to try to open more. Just to Councilmember Gordon's points, you serve on the Community Development Committee with me. I am going to make a commitment today to have a open public hearing on the status of homelessness in our community in the Community Development Committee in the next 6 weeks. And when you hear what's going on with the lack of funding with regard to rapid reentry, with what's happening in other cities where homeless encampments are popping up, 500, 600, 700 people living in public open spaces without bathrooms or showers, when you hear about what the problem is, you are going to faint. This is a minor piece of what's going on. We could do 10 more of these shelters and it won't house all of the people who need to be housed. And as the federal government gives less money to the county, there'll be almost limited money for rapid reentry, which is helping people who are homeless move into housing. And as the mayor's own budget, as best as he's tried, put forward, we don't even have the $10 million that we suggested or committed to build affordable and workforce and supportive housing. We're spending all of our time, using Band-Aids to stop gaps in preservation of existing affordable housing. In my ward alone, 98 units of affordable housing were eliminated for a surface parking lot right downtown where everyone is being evicted November 1st. I mean, this is happening everywhere. This is a crisis, and apparently there doesn't seem to be the same level of crisis management with the policymakers as there are in the community. I assure you, if we have a briefing on this issue of homelessness, this room will be packed 10 times over with members of MCCD and religious institutions and the others who are dealing with the effects of this crisis that we have. Take a look at the news clips for today. Basically, what the news clips say is rental housing at an all-time low in terms of availability, downtown even worse. The whole rental market in the city has a vacancy rate of about 1.7%. There's almost a 0% vacancy rate downtown, and that is for high-end housing. We have a crisis. It is going to come upon us like a tsunami, and these 40 beds in this conversation will seem like nothing when a tent city pops up on a vacant lot somewhere, perhaps in the second ward. And then we'll see how many neighbors come out and say they don't like that. We need to work to get more religious institutions to open their doors 10, 20, 40 beds, mats on the floor at a time. Otherwise, we're going to have a tent city like Las Vegas, and we better get ahead of the game. So I'm making a commitment. In the next 6 weeks, we will have a public hearing on homelessness. And we'll ask the people working on this issue to come in and talk to us about it, because it seems like there's a lack of understanding about what the very significant and severe situation is in this community.